at Shapoorji, Pallonji and Company. Dr. Parameshwar, if you can turn on your video just for maybe a minute before you present. Yes, wonderful. Great to see you, sir. I hope you're feeling better now.
Yeah. Not fully recovered, but I think maybe today, tomorrow, I'm going for a testing today. Yeah. Hopefully, I will turn negative. Yeah.
I greatly appreciate you being here. Dr. Parameshwar is a seasoned infrastructure management professional, has over 3 decades of experience, has done projects in urban infrastructure, airports, has been involved with many mega projects. Before he took over this position, he was at AECOM, where he was aviation head. He was earlier also former executive vice president of GMR. I mean, he was earlier executive vice president of GMR. He was also vice president of Bangalore International Airport as well. He's an engineering graduate with an MBA in operations management. Also has a PhD in business administration. So he is author of 4 popular books. With that, Dr. Parameshwar, we are ready for you, sir. Will you be making a presentation as well, or will you just be speaking?
Yeah, so I have a quick presentation. I'll share it.
Yeah, please. Yes, you should be able to.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Alok, as you mentioned, I quickly tried putting few slides yesterday since I was not keeping well, so I didn't go for a very elaborate presentation. So maybe I will run my presentation for 15-20 minutes, and maybe that would help for discussion. You could raise few questions, and then we can enter into some kind of a discussion. So the questions which was given to me, just a minute. Yeah, so where there were 3 questions which was passed on to me to answer basically, what are some of the strategies for timely and cost-effective construction? Then what are some of the best practices across sectors, and what is the role of technology? So I think before I straight away jump into this topic, I think it's very important for us to understand a little bit about today's project environment, and also maybe we could discuss quickly about what actually hinders our project, because every stakeholder wants to complete the project on time. Everybody wants to complete the project within the budget, but unfortunately, most of our projects end up with a cost overrun, and also with many days or months of delay. So let us quickly look into the reasons what makes our projects delayed. And it is hard to generalize because every project have its own project specific issues. But I'm just trying to put together certain points which are generally prominent in most of the ongoing projects. So every project manager, an appointed project manager is very much eager, enthusiastic to drive the project to the finishing line, and he also is budget conscious. But unfortunately, the road ahead may not be that smooth. Now, what could be the hurdles? We can make a list of 100 points, but some of the common points, as I mentioned, I tried putting together. So the most important thing which I found, this is common in most of the mega projects, is a poor work planning. So it is not that we don't want to plan. Everybody wants to plan, but unfortunately in India, most of the mega projects are taken up under time pressure. It may take years together for getting an administrative sanction, but once the day the project sanction is done, everybody wants the project to happen overnight. So that leads in, quickly calling a bid, then getting a contractor, then pushing hard. But the planning part is generally an ignored area. So many cases, especially in the EPC mode, the client go with a very preliminary design, which is something like a LOD 150 or 200. Then the contractor make a lot of assumption. Then he also do not have enough time for a detailed planning. Then we go and hit the ground. Then we start thinking a lot about planning. So other main reason is the design changes. And I don't think anybody in the audience or anybody in the group can make a claim that they could complete a project without design changes. So this is also another reason why, every project has multiple design changes. The reason is again the time pressure. So initially, the client bring in a consultant for getting the front end engineering design done, even though they target for an LOD 200, something like a schematic design. But most of the time, we end up calling a bid with much lesser details, something like LOD 100 or 150, but that is not sufficient enough for a bidder to understand it fully and give a proper quote. So every EPC bid attracts hundreds of bid queries. Most of the bidding now, which we are also engaging, we find by the time the bid we submit, we end up with a huge list of bid queries and clarifications, maybe hundreds of thousands. But most of the bid queries are also answered in a vague way. It is not that client or the consultant sitting with the client doesn't want to answer. The problem is, again, they do not have enough visibility because the level of design which is provided is not that enough. Now, the contractor has to assume, a lot of assumptions are made. Based on the assumptions, he built up a proposal and that is submitted. And when we really start the design development, we find the scenario altogether different. So that leads for multiple design changes, and every design change become costly, and also every design change consume a lot of time. Now, in India, we all of us know that our project delivery system is again labor-centric. And during the proposal itself, every client asks, okay, how much people you are going to mobilize? We submit a labor histogram. We make a commitment of 2,500, 3,000 or 5,000 laborers during the peak time. And of course, we mobilize. We mobilize more or less same the volume of labor through our labor contractors and subcontractors. But the question is, how many of them are actually skilled to deliver quality project, quality work? Because in India, I think the skill development, especially the construction skill development, is still, a very unorganized sector, and we need to go a long way to get the right skilled workers. And this is really, really a pain point in every project. And I don't think we have much choices today, but we have to live with this situation. Contractual disputes are very common. In many projects, even before the first brick is laid, we end up with a contractual dispute. But it depends on how good the relation between the client and the contract is, how good we are in resolving the disputes on time. Otherwise, this again impact the projects. Now we have witnessed in the recent time, many projects getting scrapped or suspended just because of a government change. So not only the political environment, even economic environment, the recent last 2.5 years, we have seen most of our mega projects are getting delayed because of economic reasons, the political reasons. So this is also a major reason for delays. So conflict of interest may not be obvious in every project, but every project has a lot of conflict of interest. This could be between individuals within an entity, or it could be between the conflict of interest between different stakeholders. But whatever, this cause a lot of issues, and many of the issues we fight, many are egocentric, rather issue-based. And this situation, I think, in every project we face a lot. Delayed payments, I don't think any explanation is required. That obviously delay the projects. So when I'm talking about leadership issues, it's not simply about the capability of the project head. So this is also about the top management support to a project. Because many projects, down the line, if you look into projects, every organization will be running multiple projects, whether it's a contractor or a client. And over a period of time, sometimes the management lose interest in certain projects, or some projects are pushed into a low priority area, and that impacts the progress. So poor condition of plants and equipment certainly affects the productivity and it impacts the project. So supply chain issues have been a major concern in the last couple of years, particularly after the pandemic, and also due to for example, the India-China relation issues has affected most of our major projects in India. So all the long lead items and imports, is a major concern. Still, I think most of the major contractors are still undergoing this problem. Lack of collaboration. This is a very complex subject, and in fact, I think I would like to discuss this one in a little bit detail in subsequent slide. Every rework is costly, and we have to pay huge price in terms of time as well as cost. And the material price increase, today's market is too fluctuating. In the last 2 years, the prices have gone so much. The basic construction material itself has undergone something around 40 to 50%, rise. And unfortunately, in the recent time, I'm finding a trend that every bid which is coming out, none of these bids have an escalation clause. So somehow the client also feels that, this is ideal. It's a better way to pass on this risk to the contractor. But I can say today in Indian market, every contractor, I'm not talking about Shapoorji or L&T or Tata or NCC, anybody, every contractor is a victim of this, the huge material price increase in the market. And the pandemic is the latest addition. I don't think we need explanations. All projects in India, not only India, globally got impacted because of this. Now, another important factor we need to look here is the productivity, the construction productivity. So that globally, you can see that every sector, whether it is agriculture or manufacturing or even retail, every sector has made tremendous improvement in the productivity, primarily due to the improvement in the process and adoption of technology, whereas the construction productivity remained a big concern. Even the developing countries like the US and most of the developing countries in the Europe, you can see that the construction productivity has only fallen in the last 50 years. So this is really a major concern. A lot of discussions have been done, a lot of targets have been kept, a lot of initiatives have been done to improve this productivity, but somehow this remains as a bitter truth. Now, think about the project manager or the project director driving a mega project, in this environment and finishing it on time and within the cost. Now, another scenario before, we are discussing about best practices. Another important point which I thought we should discuss is about the change of our project management environment itself. The last maybe 25 or 50 years, if you take, there have been a huge change the way we are approaching in delivering a project. So there was a time the owner used to appoint a general contractor. This I have been also listening after me joined Shapoorji. I heard a lot of stories about, Shapoorji grabbing projects just on trust. The owner used to call, negotiate, and awarded huge contracts. Also, there are many repeated, the orders Shapoorji used to get. And the buildings, which is built by Shapoorji maybe 100 years, 125 years before, are still, you can see across this country, the many iconic buildings, you can see it. And it was all done on trust. But today, our project management scenario, if you look, the owner or the developer, he first develop a concept that may be his own, or he may get it done in-house, or he might engage a consultant to get a concept design. Then once again, he got the project approval, the budget, sanctioned, then he need to engage a contractor. For that, he has to go for a bidding. So that is where a front-end engineering design consultant is brought. Now, unfortunately, most of these, the consultants are architectural firms. They may not have the right capability for, developing the every element of the project. So he is forced to bring another structural consulting firm or MEPF firm, or even many special systems will be there. So he bring multiple sub-consultants on board, and they again develop a design.
How was yesterday's meeting?
Well, can you mute, Mr.? Yeah, fine. Go ahead, Mr. Parameshwar.
Sorry. So they come out with a design which is again something like a Lodi 150 or 100. I call it something like a concept plus for calling a bid under time pressure. Parallelly, also the owner bring a PMC on board. And PMC, again, there are different formats of PMC. But the PMC, which is operated in India, is largely, again, manpower centric. The PMC is going to bring 40 or 50 or 60 professionals on board, and they are compensated for engagement of these people. And no PMC, even though we have all global firms in India today, everybody is jumping into this area, but no PMC can hold spare manpower or, waiting for some project to come. So what happens is, on the moment PMC get this order, they start mobilizing the people. This is mostly a floating professional in the market. They bring the people on board, and many times they may not be able to get all capabilities. So they again engage multiple specialists or sub-consultants to make this project happening. Now the bidding is done. The contractor come on board. Now in an EPC format, most of the contractor, they may not be able to deliver the entire project, the design the entire project in-house, or in most contract conditions are in such a way that they have no choice but to have an external consultant, because the eligibility criteria for the design consultant is mostly specified in the bid. So they have to hire another design consultant, and this design consultant, again, mostly architectural firm. They have to bring multiple sub-consultants. When I know some of our projects, the main consultant, engage 10 or 12 sub-consultants on board to deliver the design on time. Now, it's also not necessary that the design consultant always deliver the optimum design to the contractor, because it's competitive bid, where the contractor, the design, during the design phase, the budget control, that we need a strict budget control, otherwise we will end up again losing this project. So they bring generally another review consultant or value engineering consultant who review all the designs given by the main consultant, then optimize it and put it back to the contractor. He submit it to the PMC or owner for getting the design approved. Parallelly, you also bring multiple sub-consultants or the specialists. They again mobilize the labor, mobilize the manpower, and to get the work done. Now, if it is a PPP project, then when it become more complex, because the government or the grantor will step in, and they are going to bring another independent engineer to sit above all these, the people to oversee it. Now, just compare these two scenarios, how it was probably, 50 years back, and today how the project, management is being done. So it has totally moved from a trust to a not trust, the kind of an environment where everybody is monitored by somebody else and getting an approval at this stage. Now, if this project has, say, 3,000, 4,000 drawings to be approved on time, now you think about the situation, how easy it is going to be. It is not going to be an easy affair. And even during the construction, an RFI raised by any of the sub-consultants from the field, you think about the complexity up to what level this RFI can go for a resolution. And I think this current scenario is actually a major hurdle. The way we are managing the project today, this is turning a real hurdle for our timely delivery of the projects. Now, with this setting the context, I would like to move to the next session and next, the area where we will quickly discuss about some of the best practices. So every organization has learned a lot of best practices. So again, whatever I am trying to present here, it may not be applicable to every project, but I try to quickly put together some of the common things which probably would help every organization to complete the project on time. So the project, the project delivery doesn't happen with the construction alone. It has multiple stages, starting from proposal to then design, planning, procurement, construction, and also most of this project today, it has DLPs. Now the new trend is that the client is increasing the DLP period. Earlier, most of the projects had 1 year DLP period. They were moved from 1 year to 2 year to 3 year, and some contracts are even 5 years DLP period. So this also, one of the reasons, particularly it involves a lot of money and effort to manage the DLP. So I'm just quickly, going through every phase of this project. Some of the best practices I'm just touching upon. So the proposal stage, I call it as the most risky stage of the project, most risky stage, because as I mentioned earlier, in an EPC format, there's a lot of uncertainties and the contract has to make a lot of assumptions. So proper risk management, really listing out all probable risks could happen in the design or during the construction stage. That is very important. And again, an objective risk assessment is required. Then we need to have most of the mitigation plans in place at the proposal stage itself. And also allocating the enough contingencies to cover most of the risks. That is very important. Now, during bidding, every contractor try to get a target for an accuracy of plus or minus 25% when you are taking the quantity takeoff. But it is really difficult to achieve this accuracy. So here, again, technology plays a vital role. So mostly nowadays, what we do is we develop a BIM model. Client might give a model, but that may not be sufficient. So we need to put extra efforts to develop it further. And from the BIM model, we try to extract the quantities, which is more accurate compared to the traditional way of quantification. Then it is very important that all the designers are brought on board during the proposal stage itself, so that they have enough visibility. They can also raise a lot of question marks. They can also give a lot of inputs, and an MOU is signed with the design consultant at this stage itself. Similar way, all the long lead items, which has risk, in getting it on time, and also all the imports need to be identified at this stage. Then it is also very important that we enter into some kind of an MOU with most of the critical, the items when it comes to a system, specialized system or long lead items. A vendor MOU will always help to get the product on time later. Now we do the proper resource planning during the proposal, all the plant and equipment, then operation team structure, and most of the people will be identified. Then labor histogram, everything is being worked out. And the planning in fact starts at this stage. This stage itself, we need to do a lot of planning, a considerable amount of planning need to be completed during this stage. And today also, this is very important that we start integrating the BIM with Primavera program at this stage so that we get enough visibility of any project, because olden days, a lot of it was very, very difficult to understand when you are making a detailed planning. But today in the proposal stage itself, you can see here, what is happening in the bid which I have just submitted last week. So we had already integrated, we developed a little bit advanced BIM model, we integrated with the Primavera. So 154 days of program, we had already worked out in detail so that we know each day, each week, what activity is happening in the building if we are getting awarded. And today itself, we have an excellent visibility of this project. And this also avoids a lot of, the risk. We are able to identify most of the risk, most of the resources, accurate estimation. And this model will be subsequently used for converting it into 5D by integrating the cost once we are coming on board.
Dr. Parameshwar, we just have about 5 minutes left for the session, which I'll make it 7-8 minutes. So if you can do it in 5, 6, 7 minutes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I will run a little bit fast now. Right. So in the design stage, a similar way, we also depend, we always do our own surveys to make sure that, we don't largely depend on the client data. Then this is one area I think we were not focusing more, that is about the design for safety. I think this has become very important that during design phase itself, we identify all the hazards and risks and address it. Then stakeholder, yes, we need to get right feedback so that a lot of the revisions can be avoided. That again save the time. So periodical review with the client and PMC, and every stage approvals we take it in place. Then BIM, as I mentioned, this is really a very important tool where we integrate even cost and take it to 5D during this stage. And also the independent peer review will also help a lot. And yes, we go green in all the buildings, all the projects. So that is really worth doing it. The planning, as I said, the mantra for every project delivery is plan, plan, and plan. Because the planning starts during the proposal, and we do considerable amount of planning before that. That's a pre-construction stage, then the construction stage planning. So it's not only about having a detailed WBS and project schedule in place. We also need to have all these plans like project quality management plan, communication management plan, interface management plan, risk and opportunity management plan, document management plan, change management plan, BIM execution plan, and even design for safety plan. This all need to be worked out in advance before we strike the ground. Now, moving on to procurement, this is very important that early market analysis we do it. Then all the risk analysis of all the LLIs and imports we have done it, and also some kind of a benchmarking we do it. Then also the external, whatever is coming from outside, yes, there is always a risk. Then all the economies, it is sometimes we find it when we do the analysis, sometimes we find it is worth even buying some of the items early. That would help even delivering the project, even though it may have an impact on the cash flow. Then the contract documents has to be robust, back-to-back terms and conditions, so that the risk is being shared with the vendors. Construction, the effective communication, contractual communication is a main issue in most of the projects. We need to address it well. And it's also important that everybody, all the stakeholders, use a common document management platform where it's a controlled one. The different, the permissions can be different stakeholders, but a common platform is very important. Then site interface, particularly when multiple contractors are involved, multiple, the subcontractors are involved. This is very important, how the site interface and sign off. And all stakeholders need to be engaged, regularly so that the approvals are in place, project won't get delayed. Dispute resolution mechanism. So here we need to have a very collaborative approach where how we address and resolve the issues on time. That's very important. And advanced technologies, that is very important. And here quickly, I'm just taking an example of how we have delivered a project in Bangalore for Intel with a complete 100% tops-down approach, wherein the entire thing, every floor was constructed on ground and which was lifted up. And this project was a record-breaking project, which was delivered on time with utmost quality and with a lot of client appreciation for that. Every core was cast in 13 days at the rate of 2.5 meter per day. Then the entire floor, everything was built on floor and lifted up and completed this project on time and handed over. So similar kind of, lot of advanced technology is being adopted across the globe. Though I think in India, we have a long way to go. I think this will be one way we need to look forward for delivering our mega projects. Now, testing commissioning, yes, a lot of planning is required and most of the documents have to be in place. All the plans need to be approved. All the manuals are required in time. And also it's important that by the time we complete the project, the BIM model is updated to a level of LOD 500, including all the fabrication drawings. Everything has to be developed from the BIM. And then this BIM is handed over, an updated BIM is handed over to the client so that the client could utilize this model for their operation and maintenance and also for asset management. if that is not being done, because most projects somewhere, in the middle, we abandon this process. And by the time client takes over, you may not have an updated BIM model. So this is very important that we take the technology adoption till the end and pass it on to the client. Now, DLP planning, yes, as I said, a lot of advanced planning is required. Then we need to, again, work hard. We need to work together, because there again, the money is involved here to complete a DLP effectively. So there, all these stages of projects, I quickly touched upon. And the technology part, I think many speakers earlier also adopted that. BIM is something which I said, how the BIM transition happened during the construction phase. Now, common document management tool, I stressed upon why it is so important. Then today, the real-time project monitoring is possible, and most organizations use it. So day-to-day, what is happening in the site can be seen sitting in your control room, and also you can intervene wherever it is required. And the simulation and predictive analysis, many projects, particularly in airport projects, we found this is being used in large way. A lot of simulation tools are available today. Drones, somebody mentioned in in the previous session, this is being used now everywhere for monitoring. Automation and artificial intelligence is the way forward. Robotics is coming in a bigger way. 3D printing also, the previous speaker has mentioned about this. So these are the new technologies which would help us in delivering our complex projects on time in coming days. So to sum up, so what would ensure a timely delivery of the project? One is a detailed precision pre-project planning, then timely design closure, proactive procurement strategies, strong leadership and management support, top management commitment, effective communication and document management system, collaborative decision-making system, crisis management, because we can't avoid crisis. We always need to have a plan to manage our crisis, and business continuity, how do we manage? Then use of proven technologies. I think along with this, I sum up here, and
thank you, sir.
That's all I thought of sharing in the limited time.
Thank you. That was a great presentation, and I know we ran over time, but I thought it was a great presentation, so I'd let it run over time, knowing that we might not have as much time for questions. So we literally have just 2 minutes for questions, although I extended the session time by 5 minutes. So just one question quickly, Dr. Parameshwar. You mentioned 7 or 8 issues that really cause delays and not a timely implementation. What are the 2 biggest ones there? You had mentioned in your very first slide or second slide 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah, so one issue which is really concerning, particularly when it is you are sitting on the contractor side, is about as I mentioned, the way we manage the project, with a lot of multiple stakeholders and getting it through the decisions. Today every decision, whether it is a small approval of a drawing or getting an approval of a subcontractor or anything.
I think it's multiplicity of players.
Yes, yeah. So this is taking a lot of time. I think we need to find a better way. Again, technology could play a role in managing the communication effectively and in a convincing way.
Okay. Dr. Parameshwar, one other quick question. There are 2-3 along this line from Mainak Rai. He says, is the high cost of developing a BIM model justified when doing a proposal? Because if you don't get it, it becomes a sunk cost.
Yeah, so that is yes, you are very right that the contractor wants to invest a lot of money, but in reality, what happens every bit, we have no choice but to invest money, because if I'm putting for a project of say 2,000 crores, in approximately I can say around 2 to 3 crores, investment I do by the time I complete a project, because we need a lot of specialist consultant, our own team, something like 50, 60 professionals are working continuously for 2 to 3 months. Their cost, if you look into that, it's a huge cost. And we have no choice, because if we don't invest that money, the result will be that we end up with a wrong proposal. And during the construction, we pay much more, the price for that.
Okay. We'll have to end it there, unfortunately. As I said, a fantastic presentation. You can see in the chat, there are many good comments. And I don't think I've seen quite as many compliments for a presentation in our conference. So many, many thanks, Dr. Parameshwar. And please get better, and greatly appreciate your being here despite not being fully well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you
See you
very
in
much.
person one of these days.
Bye-bye.
Thank
All
you,
the
sir.
best.
Thank you. We are now ready for the session on airports, and we have with us